All right, so hello and welcome. I have Jenna. Welcome, Jenna.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. So I'm doing another video blog interview today. I'm really excited. It's been a little while since I've done my last one. So Jenna, I'm going to introduce you. So Jenna Soroka, is that how you say your last name?
Soroka.
Soroka. Okay,
Close.
thank you.
Works
Yeah,
either way.
really close. I get names wrong a lot, so I have to ask to clarify.
I feel you.
So Jenna is a licensed health and nutrition counselor. She lives in Edmonton, and so that's why we connected, because I'm living in Calgary. And she runs her own business, which is Adapt Nutrition and Performance, which I'm so excited to see another fellow nutrition entrepreneur. You can find her at adaptnp.com and on her Instagram at Jenna Blair Soroka. Yeah, perfect. So Jenna, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I want you to tell our viewers, and then I'll learn a bit more too about you, but tell people a little bit about you and then the work you do in Edmonton, and if you're online and if you offer any kind of other services outside of Edmonton too.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I wasn't always in health and wellness as a coach. I originally was in architecture and made the switch when I realized that my passion was in supporting people to build a more positive relationship with food and their bodies. And so that kind of led me to where I am today. We can get into all the fluff in between, but where I am today, I'm helping people build a more positive relationship with food and their bodies using a weight neutral approach and focusing on cultivating habits, behavior change to help people get out of that relentless pursuit of the thin ideal or whatever, societally acceptable body image is nowadays, and which results in food obsession, so they can embrace their imperfections and beat self-sabotage.
Nice. Yeah, I think the one thing that I read on your website that was so interesting to me is that you are helping people be like fully human and in that human experience. And that really, I connected with that a lot. And I thought, wow, that's such a neat way of looking at it, that, kind of like getting away from that perfectionism view or that dieting ideal. So tell me like a little bit more about that too.
Yeah, so in my own personal journey, when I started getting more into health and nutrition, I was working with a nutrition coach, and we took a macro-based approach, which essentially was me weighing and tracking my food based on carbs, proteins, and fat, because I was experiencing low energy, and I was also wanting to change my body. I wanted to lose some weight, tone up, all that good stuff, and it resulted in some restrictive eating tendencies and food obsession. And my personality is very, you give me the roadmap, I'll do all the things, and then it can only result in what I want. Like, my mind was set, like, I'll weigh my food, I'll be really like diligent with that and really have all that self-control, all that stuff, and then I'll look the way I want to and feel great and happy. After a year and a half, maybe 2 years, I just remember standing in my bathroom, looking in the mirror and kind of contorting my body and pinching like the fat on my body, and thinking to myself, after that 1.5, 2 years of being really strict with what I ate and avoiding going to restaurants, getting a lot of anxiety with going out to places to eat or going over to families to eat or going to holiday events and just feeling out of control while I was eating. I was looking at myself in the mirror, still unhappy, which was kind of like this light bulb moment where I started questioning some of the beliefs I had around what it meant to be healthy and happy.
Nice.
Yeah. And so with that line of questioning, I started exploring mindful eating. And I don't know if I listened to it on a podcast or something, and I was like, oh, this sounds interesting, because I was like, how do I get away from being so obsessed with food? Because I think that's a lot of what people are struggling with right now, is there's this constant preoccupation or is that, yeah, preoccupation of food and body image, and it's leaving little room to actually pursue the things that we value and that actually bring us joy in life. And
Mm.
so my entry into the health at every size space and um, that realm of health and wellness began with mindful eating, but didn't progress until around like a year later, where I was seeing with my clients, even though we were focusing on mindset and building a better relationship with food and their bodies, we were still focusing on intentional weight loss,
Mm.
which made me research into like I mentioned, health at every size, and also more of a social justice approach, where I was looking into weight bias and weight discrimination and fat phobia, which, you know, there's some things that you learn that you can't unlearn.
Yes,
And so,
absolutely.
right? And so I read these things, and seeing how we live our lives trying to uphold to these really rigid standards of what it means to be this beautiful, worthy person,
Mhm.
that we put so much emphasis on weight loss as the way to achieve those things. And there is plenty of research when you look outside of the medicalization of um, obesity and being overweight, that you see that there's a world um, beyond losing weight.
Mhm.
And when
Absolutely.
you get into that literature, it's really interesting because the language changes, where it's not about there's this obesity epidemic. It's like it's about larger bodies or fat bodies, and reclaiming those words, which I think are really powerful too.
Mm-hmm. So when you talk about kind of on your website about that human experience, what you're kind of lending that definition to is like feeling all the feels of, going through the motions in life, of the emotions, and also looking at like what you want to value in life. And you don't have to accomplish weight loss or a certain body type to really like get those things. You can have those things now instead of waiting until you've lost weight. Is that sort of what you're talking about?
Exactly. You summed that up really nicely. I go off on
No,
tangents, so
that's
you
okay. Yeah.
you brought it back in, which is great. And yes, it's realizing that the human experience isn't supposed to be this cold and sterile um, experience where we're just constantly trying to lose weight and take all the joy out of movement and eating. It's supposed to be very vibrant and colorful, because we have so many emotions, and because food is a part of our cultures and is a part of our celebrations. And I think with diet culture and the messages we receive from that, we lose trust in ourselves, and then we have this idea that we need to be perfect to uphold to those standards that they lay out for us, that are just not true.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm all about breaking down
Yeah.
those beauty ideals and standards, throwing them
Yeah.
out the window. That's for sure. Yeah, as I love that approach. And I want to know a bit too about why you chose that weight inclusive approach, because as we were talking before a bit, it's really easy in the wellness industry and the fitness industry to sell weight loss. And I see this all the time because, I get told by some fitness and wellness professionals that, people are looking for that. And so if I didn't sell that, I would have no clients and no business. And I see that disputed time and time again within the health at every size community of dietitians, health coaches, nutrition professionals who don't sell weight loss, and they have thriving and flourishing businesses. So for you, what made you decide to kind of take that leap of faith a bit, because it isn't as a sense like traditional practice or mainstream, really. It's still a
Hmm.
little bit like, oh, what's that? A non-weight loss focused nutrition counselor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what made you take that like direction instead of the weight loss direction?
Yeah. So great question. And you brought up some excellent points around kind of carving your path into a space in the health and wellness industry that's outside of weight loss, because I was, and I still, and I think a lot of people doing what we're doing do get that pushback with what you said. Like, if you're not selling weight, you're not going to be successful. And it's like,
Yeah.
I was just so I was like, that makes sense, but it doesn't, right? Because where it made sense is because it was the messaging I had been receiving all my life, and why I was looking in the mirror, pinching my stomach and contorting my body and restricting my eating. Like that was all wrapped up nicely to present to myself and be like, see, this makes sense.
Mhm.
Yet there was that cognitive dissonance where I'm like, but it doesn't make sense at the same time. And so then I became curious, and I started exploring why I was feeling that disconnect between weight loss and pursuing the weight neutral, weight inclusive approach. And when I started digging into those communities where it was like body diversity and positivity and and acceptance, it was like so refreshing. And I'm like, well,
Mhm.
you're allowed to do this and you can be successful at this. And it's okay to embrace your imperfections. That was really powerful for me to hear, and gave me the confidence to switch over
Mhm.
more wholeheartedly and confidently to that anti-diet approach. There's different language
Yeah,
we can use regarding
definitely.
that, but yeah, it was just exploring that community and then getting the confidence that we can do things differently, and it's okay that we get some pushback. It doesn't mean we shouldn't keep fighting for what we believe is right for people. And just to add on to that, it was while working with clients also, and seeing how not only in my personal experience I was struggling to kind of find that body acceptance and let go of food obsession, but with my clients as well, to see that making intentional weight loss the focus wasn't working, really kind of pushed me to fight for body diversity now too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somewhat. I totally relate to that as well. And it's interesting because even when I have spoken about like kind of my story and why I've gotten into the work I do, part of it is because my work doing weight loss just was met with like failure time and time again. And so I was like, wow, I just don't think I'm cut out for this. Like as a dietitian, like I just don't know what I'm doing, obviously, because my clients are not seeing long-term weight loss. And so what am I doing wrong? And even now, when I talk about that, it feels as though I'm at fault, or there's a part of me that just wasn't doing good enough work. And then when I come back to that health at every size approach, and it's like, no, it wasn't me, it was the system itself who, diets don't work and it's not relatable for most people in their life to have to be on this like strict diet and to try to lose weight and to have that as their focus. It doesn't create a vibrant life, a flourishing life. And so of course they're not going to stick with that in their lifetime either, right? There's lots of reasons. So I think that's so relatable when you're like, yeah, I wasn't seeing some of those results that I wanted for my clients. And then now that you're working kind of in more of the anti-diet approach, you're probably seeing very different results for your clients.
Yeah, because it's like everything you just brought up was great because you kind of articulated what I'm feeling, which is, yeah, we put as the practitioner the blame on ourselves, and then the clients blame themselves too. Like everybody's
Yes.
blaming themselves, and it's like, wait, the system? Who blamed the
Exactly.
system yet, right? And so,
Yeah.
and then when you get into the research, when it comes to long-term studies on weight loss,
Mhm.
they don't prove to be effective, the approaches. And I don't think that message is presented often, which is great for the diet industry, right? Like
Completely.
they're making money off of it, but they're making money off of people's pain, which is, in my opinion, very unethical.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. We could talk for a long time
I know.
about this.
Once you get into it, you're like, let's go.
I know, right? That's why I do like a couple videos a week in my private Facebook group because I have a lot to say a lot of the time. So
That's
thank you.
awesome.
This has been great. I want you to leave our audience with one thing. Like if people are kind of in that mucky kind of space where they're just not sure what to do, they know they can't go back to dieting. They're just like, nope, that's not for me, but they're not sure where to go or where to head next. What advice could you give them?
Great question. Great question. I would say, personally, to invite curiosity, compassion, and courage into your life. Have the ask questions. You can challenge the beliefs that you've been and the messages you've been taught. Show yourself some kindness as you navigate this, as you said, mucky space, because it is tough and there are hard conversations that need to be had. So kindness is important, and then courage. Lean into that discomfort even when things feel like you want to retreat back to that diet mentality. You are so much more than a diet. You deserve so much more to embrace your imperfections, and um, yeah, just be as human as you possibly can be.
I love that. Well, thank you. And just to remind everybody as we wrap up, Jenna can be found at her Instagram at Jenna Blair Soroka and online at adaptnp.com. So thank you, Jenna.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun.
Me too. Okay, see you, everybody.